This is Hashtag Impact, a podcast about stuff that matters. And this episode is unlike anything we have done here on the channel. And we have done a lot. We recorded on rooftops, in elevators, in front of sold-out theaters, in teeny tiny boiling hot meeting rooms. We recorded across time zones with our talented co-hosts spread across the world. Thank you for being part of this. Recently, we recorded in a live podcasting booth at one of the best TEDx events in town. And that episode actually is coming right up after this one. Will be the first episode of the new year. So please watch out for this one that we recorded at TEDx Teen How Women. We planned, we scheduled, we strategized. So our episodes fit in with our ongoing themes. But this time is nothing like that. This time we get really raw. And when I say we today, I mean me. Me, your host and founder of Hashtag Impact, Regina Larko, as I'm recording this today from my home of 7 years here in Hong Kong. If you are tuning in here for the first time, I think there's a chance that you might not be ready for what's to come. And I don't want to throw you off, because this episode is really unlike anything we have ever done. So feel free to, pause this now and check out some of the other episodes we did in the past 5 years, because there's a lot. There's a lot. And you can listen to these amazing podcasts where we feature inspiring change makers making our world a better place. If you are one of our long-time listeners, you might also not be ready for what's to come. And, I will stop to read off the script now that I have prepared beforehand. And I just want to get really raw and fill you in on what this podcast has been to me over the last 5 years since we launched. I think the end of the year is always such a beautiful opportunity to reflect and, to be honest, in the past 2 years, ever since the pandemic started, I didn't really allow myself to reflect so much. I just functioned, and I knew I had to and I wanted to because just around the time the first wave hit Hong Kong, I was getting ready to have my third baby. And I knew that I wanted to be strong for my family, even during that time when I felt incredibly weak and very vulnerable. The podcast was started in one of these very vulnerable moments as well, when we just relocated to Hong Kong. There was a time I was searching for where I would fit in this city, and I was so honored and very humbled that I was able to reflect on that this year at a Creative Mornings talk I gave on liminal. I had no idea what liminal means, but as I came to understand and doing my research, I thought that this word so perfectly described for how it felt when I first arrived in Hong Kong, in this in-between stage, in this transition, a rite of passage, not just starting a new career, starting anew in a new city, but also starting a family and going from, being a couple, just me and my husband, kind of like just deciding what we wanted to do with our days, then having this little kid to fill in our kind of like that kid that totally took over our schedule and our lives, and that all of a sudden dictated everything. And that was amazing and wonderful, but also incredibly exhausting and challenging. And there's one thing that I was very, very scared of before I had a baby, and that was that I would be far away from home when I would become a mom. my home is in Austria, and my family is in and around Vienna. And we are a huge family, and they are the most amazing people you can imagine. And I'm so blessed to have this amazing, nurturing, and loving family. And now they were so far away. And that was my kids screaming in the background. I wonder which one it was. I think it was the middle one. Yeah. So where was I? I started the podcast around the time when I became a mom. And it was a way for me to connect to new people in the city, to address topics that I care about deeply, like making a social impact, sustainability initiatives, connect with people that were really walking the talk, and it was so inspiring to me. I wanted to feel their spark, and I wanted to just find that spark for myself as well, and I did. I did in this podcast. But what this podcast also did for me throughout these last years here in Hong Kong was that it kept me sane. And at times, especially when things were particularly challenging, like the last 2 years, not being able to travel because of the strict quarantine restrictions here in Hong Kong. You know, we could travel, but it's just with small kids, it's really, really hard to go through that quarantine. And we just made the conscious decision that we wouldn't do that. And also it was impossible for our family to visit us here because of that. And that meant that for the last 2 years, we haven't seen them. That means that until today, and I'm recording this in December 2021, they haven't met our newest addition to the family. That little boy that is now almost and soon 2 years old. And having my work and my passion for the podcast helped me to get over that frustration and pain I often felt when it comes to not being able to see our family in person. And I mentioned that recording I did at TEDx Teen Women recently. And I was sitting in this recording booth for collecting voices from the participants. Anyone who wanted to come record with me could. And it was wonderful. People were lining up, waiting to share their voice on the podcast. And you'll hear all these beautiful voices in the next episode. And it was so wonderful to welcome some of the people I knew, and they knew about the podcast already. But there were most of the people that came to the booth that day were complete strangers. And there I was sitting in that booth with my recorder, and they opened up. And they opened up and shared with me, and they will share that with you as well in the next episode of What Matters Now. And so many of them shared that feeling of missing their families, missing their connections. It's helped me, and I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up that day in that recording booth. It helped me to actually allow myself to feel something that I hadn't allowed myself to feel, because I wanted to be strong for my family. I wanted to be strong for for my podcasting students, for my friends, for my family here, our little family, our children, but also for our family back home. Because I know if they know how hard it is for us, that would hurt them as well. And they did the same for us. We all did the best to not let each other know how much we actually miss each other and how much we grieved those moments that we now missed in these last 2 years. And that's where I am now. Wrapping up this year and reflecting on what matters to me, what matters within our communities, and on a very personal level, what matters to our family, and how we have across time zones and across the distance found a way to stay connected and to nurture our relationships in newfound ways, to connect oftentimes with audio messages. It might not surprise you now that I have introduced pretty much everyone in our family to the beauty of just sending a voice message in that moment when we are thinking of that other person. Because oftentimes, and you have noticed that for sure yourself as well, your loved ones, you want to give them a call, you want to let them know you're thinking of them, but maybe they're in another time zone, or they are just, you know that they're at work right now, but you're thinking of them in that moment and you want to share something with them. And then you can just share that voice message with them, and then they can listen to your voice as you share that moment with them, and then they can tune into that later on when they have that quiet moment to listen. And that's what I gifted our family this year. And that is why this podcast is different from every single podcast that is out there until today. Because what I'm sharing with you next, to wrap up this episode, the last episode of 2021, is the Christmas gift we as a family, our little family here in Hong Kong, created for our family in Austria and Sweden, where my husband is from. We created a moment in time where we honored the birthdays we missed. Well, we didn't miss them, but we missed celebrating them together. We honored the milestones that we observed just through video. We honored that we are so far away from each other, but still so close. And we honored that with just one step at a time, one day at a time, we are getting closer to that moment where we can all hug each other again. And before I'm getting too emotional to even continue on, I want to share this song with you all. A song I wrote and sang. And maybe, hopefully, this will resonate with you as well, as you are finding your ways to connect with your loved ones. And realize that those moments really, those moments of connection that I often get to experience here at the podcast with our podcast guests, with my podcasting students across the world, with my amazing #Impact Season 5 podcast team across the continents. That closeness and that hope that we don't always allow ourselves to honor these moments, these little moments of daily life that have this massive impact on us. And I'm just rambling on because I think maybe the longer I talk, the more likely the chance that people are actually gonna tune off now and not hear me sing on the channel. Because that is very raw and personal. But if you are still listening, then I'm pretty sure that you are one of these people that truly cares about what we intend to bring here to the channel. And this makes you part of my family too. And that's why you should also hear this audio gift that this year Christmas, just a few days ago, my family got to hear. So here's the world premiere, the public world premiere of One Day, Ein Tag, en dag. It's there. Ein Tag, ein Schritt, wir sind ganz nah. Was bleibt uns noch von diesem Jahr? Ihr seid da. Vi tar en dag i taget, längtar efter så mycket kärlek vi har till er. Till er. Our roots, our strength, the courage stays across the oceans where we'll sail when time comes. Ein Lichtstreif auf dem Horizont, von hier bis dort die Sonne kommt. Wenn sie kommt.
Das freut mich, dass ihr gestern so einen schönen Tag gehabt habt.
Ich wünsche dir alles zu deinem Geburtstag heute. Alles Liebe.
Hallo liebe Mickey Maus, leider war die Verbindung heute ein bisschen schlecht und möchte ich dir noch einmal viele, viele Busse schicken. Ja, macht mir schon Spaß.
Alles Gute zum Geburtstag.
Alles Gute!
Ja, und dass alles gut wird. Busse.
Bonjour, ma belle de jour.
Tid för att leva för allvar på
Ja, hon lever.
Stort grattis på 60-årsdagen, Linnea.
Stort grattis Linnea. Ha jättefint.
Grattis på ettårsdagen, Magnus.
Grattis.
Hoppas att de hurrar för dig och gratulerar i skolan också. Ha det jättebra. Puss och kram. Hej då.
Grattis.
Ein Tag, ein Schritt, wir sind ganz nah. Was bleibt uns noch von diesem Jahr? Ihr seid da. Vi tog en dag i tåget, längtar efter så mycket kärlek vi har till er. Till er. Our roots, our strength, our courage stays across the oceans where we'll sail. When time comes. Ein Lichtstreif auf dem Horizont. Von hier bis dort die Sonne kommt.
Ja, du kan inte äta alla, du kan inte äta
Wenn
folkakris
sie kommt.
hela dagen. Dessutom är det pepparmint. Det smakar inte gott alls.
Macht ihr da jetzt einen Lebkuchen oder was?
No, not ready.
Ska du grilla pepparkakorna?
Also, this peppercorn killing me.
Vem är det som har hällt ut alla pepparkakorna på golvet?
Mama.
Wir müssen die verstecken, die Zuckerl. Der Magnus isst alle auf. Der findet die am Boden.
Mange, nej, inte pilla på det. Då måste du pilla på allting.
I'm cooking.
Was hast du da Gutes gemacht?
Pepperkaken.
One day at a time, that's what they say. The steps we take, the love we share. It's there. Ein Tag, ein Schritt, ihr seid ganz nah. Was bleibt uns noch von diesem Jahr? Ihr seid da. Vi tog en dag i tåget, längtar